I'm Caitlin Foley. I'm an associate editor with Hardware Retailing Magazine and NRHA. I'd like to welcome you to the Employee Motivation Webcast. This webcast is going to focus on how to keep your employees happy and productive. This webcast is sponsored by NRHA, Hardware Retailing Magazine, and the NRHA Vendor Partner Program. Today during the webcast we're going to discuss a few different things about employee motivation. The first thing we're going to talk about is what employees are most satisfied and dissatisfied with in terms of their job at home improvement stores. We spoke with a lot of different employees during our store visits and just kind of got a better idea of what they're happy about, what they like, and maybe some of the things that they're not too happy about. The second thing we're going to discuss is what retailers can do to remedy these issues, how they can fix any issues that come up in their store, and how they can focus on fixing problems before they really become problems. And the third thing is how you can take more of a proactive approach to employee motivation. Things you can start doing, little things you can start doing in your store that will help keep morale up, keep them happy, and make sure there aren't any issues going forward in the future. Okay, and the first thing we're going to discuss today are what employees had to say. On the following slides, we're going to look at some of the pros and some of the cons. With the economy, we know that some retailers have had to cut hours, even cut staff, and cut benefits. So that has kind of affected employee morale, and there are a few things that retailers can do to kind of offset that. The first thing that a lot of the employees said that they enjoyed were incentive programs, ways to either earn extra cash or earn extra benefits. In general, employees are looking for the opportunity to make more cash or earn extra benefits through incentive programs. Friendly competition can really help create more of a sense of family and really increase the group dynamic within a store. But the key part here is the friendly part. You need to keep the competition friendly. You don't want to bring any extra negativity into the store and get people pitting against one another. So as long as you keep it lighthearted and friendly, you're good to go. Another thing that employees really enjoyed was frequent and frank conversations with their direct boss. Now, these things don't have to be sit-down interviews or really intense discussions. They just like to be kept in the know of what's going on in the store and know exactly what they need to be doing to either improve their work or any things that they need to focus on. One of the employee motivation experts we spoke to said the key to these kind of conversations is don't sit down. If you sit down, your meeting is going to go much longer than you expected, and you might even get into topics that you didn't even need to discuss or really get into. So just keep them quick, check in on how they're doing, and this will really improve their morale and know that it'll show that you care and you know them by their name, you know what they're doing. It'll really help them boost that. They'll feel more important by you taking the time to meet with them in the store. And another key to employee motivation in terms of what the employees really like are freebies. Everyone loves free stuff, we have to admit it, and employees are no different. This is a really great way to get your employees to realize how much you do care about them by just throwing little things like an impromptu lunch for them on a regular Wednesday. Don't need to have anything really formal by any means, but just getting them lunch or having a picnic with the entire staff and bringing their families in really helps create that sense of community within a store. The last thing that employees really appreciate is recognition. Now, I understand retailers don't always have extra gift cards or extra cash to be handing out to say a job well done, but really a thank you is just as good. Whether you say it to them in the store face-to-face or even recognize them in monthly employee meetings, a thank you goes a long way. Retailers should recognize everything from a job well done, exceeding a sales goal, even birthdays and work anniversaries. That really helps create a sense of family within the store. Now on the other side of the spectrum, we're going to look at a few of the topics that employees were maybe dissatisfied in terms of their jobs with their home improvement retailer. The main one that came up a lot was benefits package and salary. Understanding, a lot of hours got cut during the economy and maybe the raises didn't come as often as they used to. So retailers really need to focus and understand that this is a concern of a lot of their employees. Now, understanding that this is an issue for a lot of home improvement retailers, this is a great way to bring the incentive programs into play. You can kind of counteract any low wages or lack of benefits by offering those incentives in terms of extra cash, gift cards for the store. Any kind of extra thing will really help them kind of increase morale and make them feel maybe not as negatively about their salary package. Now, to get a better idea of where other home improvement retailers stand, we're going to take some numbers from our employee compensation report. This will help give you a better idea of where other retailers stand and what's kind of the general guideline in terms of benefits. Now, as you can see here on this slide, this looks at major medical insurance for just managers within home improvement stores. And as you can see, the majority, 57%, do offer major medical insurance to employees and families. Now, in terms of full-time employees, it's not too different from the managers. Any kind of concern comes from is from the part-time employees. And as you can see from this slide, this is an issue for most home improvement retailers according to our employee compensation report. But on a more positive note, as you can see here, bonuses are pretty much offered to most of the employees. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking at your finances and trying to determine who will get the bonuses and who will not. As you can see here, it's pretty even split in terms of who gets them. Mostly managers, full-time employees, part-time employees. It usually runs the entire spectrum of everyone. Another issue that many of the employees we spoke to had was their lack of training. They felt that they weren't properly prepared to do their job to the best of their abilities. Proper training is key to providing excellent customer service. So if retailers don't focus the time and the effort on their employees to provide this training, it will really kind of factor down to the customer service at the end and will end up affecting your customers and even your bottom line. Now, to get a better idea of what the general retailer does, also from our employee compensation report, as you can see here, managers get about 17 hours a year in terms of training. Full-time employees get 14 and part-time get 9. Now, none of those numbers are really amazing by any means, especially in terms of your part-time employees. Although they aren't there as often, they're usually the ones that are in front of the customers, working with them on a day-to-day basis and providing that excellent customer service. So maybe by focusing a little bit more, a few extra hours here and there in terms of training, it'll make them feel more prepared to do their job and it'll help show, how important the job really is to you. Also, as you can see here, the average training budget in dollars is about $1,600 a year. Now, these are all kind of relatively low numbers overall, and this is something that kind of goes by the wayside with a lot of retailers since there's so many things to go on a day-to-day basis. But this is a really good thing to focus on in terms of not only increasing employee morale, but also increasing your customer service and having knowledgeable staff. Now, a great way to kind of focus on training is if you have a monthly meeting, take an extra hour to work with the employees. Break them up into different groups based on their departments and really focus on talking about the latest products, any new sales you have going on in the store, and any promotions coming up so they're most prepared. Another complaint that some of the employees we spoke to had was micromanaging. The employees felt like they always had someone watching over them and they almost had too many bosses and didn't really know how to turn to. Retailers need to walk a fine line between providing just enough assistance and not being overbearing. Now, this can change from employee to employee. A lot of the retailers we spoke with said this really does differ depending almost on age for the most part. Some of their more seasoned veteran employees really didn't need as much hands-on help on a daily basis or even a weekly basis. They knew what they were doing. They didn't need to be checked in on. Whereas some of the younger employees, they really like to know, they like to be kept up to date with what they need to be doing, how they need to improve, and having that weekly or even daily interaction was really important to them. The last complaint that a lot of the employees had was lack of long-term growth. A lot of them felt like this was almost a dead-end job. It was just a part-time job, just there to get their paycheck. And that certainly isn't something that retailers want to focus on, and they want to help change that opinion. Lack of long-term growth really weighs on employees' minds. They don't feel like they're getting anywhere, but that doesn't always have to be the case. Even in part-time employees that might just be working there while they're in college or working a second job, they can still play an integral role in the business. While management might not be in every employee's future, that doesn't mean that they can't be important to the business. You can work with different ways of getting your younger employees more involved in the social media aspects or the website development, or even work with some of your other employees that might really be avid gardeners. So getting them involved in the lawn and garden department or helping them host a different event will make them feel important to the company, and it'll give them a little more passion for their job, even if this isn't their long-term goal. Now that we went through some of the pros and the cons from the employees that we spoke with, now let's focus on what retailers can do to be proactive in terms of employee motivation. What can you do before any problems come up? Now, the first thing and the key here is to get the conversation started early. Focus on employee motivation before there's a problem. Create a plan before getting started. speak with your other managers, see what they feel in terms of how hands-on you should be, different programs you should start. If you need an incentive program, if you need more training, get as many of the managers on board as possible. Retailers need to work with each employee to see what interests them and determine if there's any way you can incorporate those skills into the company. Another thing that retailers need to do is be flexible. You also need to see what the employee needs in terms of hours, if they can work weekends, if they can work nights. A lot of families are working second jobs or rearranging their regular work schedule, so you need to realize sometimes they might need to leave early to pick up their kids from school. They might need to go do this or that and the other thing. So retailers need to be flexible, and showing that flexibility and realizing that you're willing to work with them, you understand that they've got other things going on outside of work, will really help create that good company feeling. And to go along with being flexible, retailers also need to be compassionate. You need to understand that sometimes things come up. Emergencies happen. Life happens. Being receptive and compassionate during any times of emergencies for your employees will help gain respect from your employees. And that really is the key to getting them on board in terms of customer service and taking real pride in their jobs. Well, now let's take a look at what two different retailers have done to really focus on employee motivation. The first retailer we spoke with was Adam Busher from Picton Home Hardware in Picton, Ontario, Canada. He's done a lot of really progressive things in terms of their employee motivation, especially in terms of incentive programs. But one of the first things that he does is he's changed up the way he holds his regular staff meetings. He used to be the main speaker at all of his staff meetings every month. He's speaking to a crowd of about 60 or so employees, and he realized that he wasn't getting any interaction. He's mostly just speaking at them and they're taking it in. There wasn't any conversation started. So he decided to break them up into smaller groups for each of their monthly meetings. And that usually went by department. So all of the hand and power tools employees would go together, all the paint and sundries would go together, and they'd have their conversations with their direct managers that way. It really helped get more interaction. It allowed the employees to feel more comfortable in voicing their opinions, concerns, or any kind of ideas. What Adam does is he sits in on each group meeting as much as possible to get as much feedback and understand what's going on in each of the departments. This has been a really good way for him to understand what's happening in each department and also getting more interaction from his employees. Another thing that Adam also focuses on is employee appreciation. He hosts a number of different events throughout the year, and some of them he likes to make them even a surprise. For example, he had one Wednesday out of the month, and he just said, employee meeting, but it really wasn't an employee meeting. It ended up kind of being a potluck dinner for all of his employees that were there, and it was just a fun way to make it a surprise and show that all the managers took the time to make something at home, bring it in, and have that dinner for all of the employees. Another thing Adam does is the Outstanding Employee Program. Through this program, he recognizes an employee every month and hosts a contest for a free week of vacation. Through the Outstanding Employee Program, usually all of the managers get together and they nominate different employees and they decide on which one will be the employee of the month every year. Adam was a little worried about this program at first. He didn't want it to be corny or hokey or any of those things, but it turns out that the employees really got on board with it, and especially competing for that free week of vacation at the end of the year, which is decided at the Christmas party. That turned out to be a really big incentive program for him. Also, as you can see here on this slide, he also promotes in the local newspaper and on the company's Facebook page who was the outstanding employee that month. By promoting his employee on the company's Facebook page and also in the newspaper, has really helped kind of gain more interest in the program as well. Adam mentioned that he's had customers come in and go right to that employee and congratulate them for being the employee of the month that month, or even go up to Adam and mention, it's really great that you recognize your employees. So this has turned out to be a really great program for him. He also mentioned that it's also a good way to get more conversation started in terms of any yearly reviews. If an employee was concerned about why they weren't nominated at all this year, you can have that conversation with them and say, this is what happened, this is maybe some of the things you have to work on. So it really shows that employees really want to get recognized, and this has been a great way to get more conversation started with each of his employees. The second retailer we spoke with was Mark Schuline from Crown Ace Hardware. He has about 17 locations throughout Orange County, California and Arizona. Now, as you can imagine, having so many stores and so many different employees can be difficult for a retailer. It's hard to get your face in front of all of those employees on a monthly basis or even a yearly basis, depending on how far apart the stores are. Considering his stores are so spread out and there's so many of them, Mark realized that he was going to have to keep communication lines as open as possible. And he realized that open communication starts from the top. If he didn't preach it, or if he didn't practice what he preached, it wasn't going to happen. So one of the things that he focused on was this State of Crown report. Every month he sends out a newsletter that really goes through all of the major talking points of what's going on in all the stores, what sales goals they've met, any updates on operations. He even discusses yearly financial information and any staff recognition in these newsletters. And these are all written by him, and it really shows the employees that he is taking a proactive approach to communication, realizing he can't always be in front of all of his employees every day or every month. By having this State of Crown report has helped keep those communications lines open. Another thing that Mark focused on was leadership training. He realized that since he can't be in all of his stores, he needs to have the best managers and best leaders in each one of his stores and even each one of his departments. Continuous training is really important for not only the employees, but the managers. He partners with a local management training company to provide insights and assistance. This has been a great way for him to maybe get more of an outside perspective of what they need to work on, what they're doing well, and how they can continue to improve. We stopped by Mark's Huntington Beach, California location to speak with him about his employee motivation techniques. Check out what he had to say.
My name is Mark Schuline with Crown Ace Hardware. We have 17 Ace Hardware stores in Southern California and into Lake Havasu, Arizona. I'm a big believer in praise, recognition, employee motivation. I mean, we rely on our people to do everything. I sit in an office, and our people are the ones out there touching our customers and interacting with everybody and really making the money for the company. I mean, they're the ones doing all the heavy lifting. So our job here in our corporate team is to reinforce what they're doing, motivate them, give them a reason to come to work and enjoy it, not just be a job. We really believe in Crown being not only the best place to work, but the best place to shop, and they go hand in hand. So we've built training programs, leadership training, so both in-house and third-party, and communication is a big part of it. It's one of the challenges with multi-store, with 17 locations across quite a few miles. I've learned over the years that we have to be very smart in how we communicate with them. So it's a combination of written word, emails, phone calls. We do some web conferencing, and we bring people in on a regular basis so we get some real face time. And one of the things I've developed over the years is nothing rocket science, but it's the State of Crown. I do a monthly update that goes out to the store. It's not a newsletter, it's just this is how we did performance-wise, this is what we're focusing on, this is what we're seeing as successes. But I really get to get up on my soapbox, and I actually have a section towards the end that's Mark Soapbox, because I tend to try to write the way I talk, and I try to just let it flow and get out there and let them know, hey, you know, I'm pretty passionate about it, and I try to let that come through in words. And again, because we're so far and diverse in the stores, that tends to be the best tool that I have at this point, since I can't get out there and see them. So I really try to share all the good stuff and the bad stuff, but really to try to invigorate them to continue to focus on our initiatives and see the vision and embrace it and go out and kick some butt. Absolutely, we've always really strived to provide something and kind of put our money where our mouth is, to both reinforce the vision and all the initiatives that we're rolling out and tie every person on the sales floor to it, whether it be management or sales staff or cashiers. So yeah, we absolutely believe in incentive programs at all different levels, and it all ties to whatever we're looking at. We also tie them all together. So whatever the cashier's incentive is the sales floor's incentive, it's tied to the management incentive. So everybody's shooting at the same target, so they, you know, embrace what we're doing, they get behind it, and they've got some skin in the game. Well, the easy part is you just got to start, because any motivation, any positive reinforcement is a step above where you were potentially before. There's tons of training out there, so it really depends on how far you want to get into it. But start by committing to it yourself. Everything starts with the owner of the company, whether they realize it or not. I know that if I don't buy into something, that initiative is going to have no value out in the stores. So I've got to buy in, I've got to support it, I've got to live it. And we've kind of built our company around that. We have very clear employee expectations that we've built. It's kind of been the way we've always operated. We've finally formalized it over the last 2 years, and everything is based on these expectations. You know, from integrity to customer service to team leadership or team engagement. And those things, once they become really promoted and reinforced and kind of integrated to everything you do, it kind of becomes second nature. I do get the management, the corporate staff, the store management staff together on a quarterly basis to come out, and we'll do a management team meeting. We'll tie that with our third-party leadership training, and then we'll usually go do a dinner or event. This past year we did a go-kart day, we did a bowling night, we did, and we coupled that with dinner. So we get some good team bonding time together. So it's work, but we ended up having a pretty good time, and we'll do trophies and stuff. We'll try to make it as fun as possible. I won the bowling night somehow.
Now let's go over some of the things we learned from this webcast today. Change comes from the top. If retailers don't get on board with employee motivation techniques, they're not going to roll down through the managers and ultimately to the employees. So retailers really need to get on board with what their plan is going to be and realize that they are the ones that need to get things started. Keep communication lines open. Speaking with your managers and your employees is the key to employee motivation. Keeping that conversation going is the only way that you can continue to improve on the morale of the store. Show appreciation. A simple thank you goes a long way. Now you can also do any kind of formal recognition in terms of recognizing employees at monthly meetings or in the newsletter, but thank yous really do go a long way. Find unique ways to make up for any shortcomings. Realizing that salaries and benefit packages are usually pretty set in stone during times like these, retailers can get creative with offering different incentive programs in terms of gaining extra cash here and there, or extra vacation, or any of those kind of things really will help make up for any of the shortcomings. Invest in your employees. This doesn't always have to be monetary investments. This also is time in terms of training and taking the time to meet with them, keep them up to date on what's happening, and also making sure they know what they need to be doing to best do their jobs. And finally, retailers need to work to create a positive atmosphere. The atmosphere within a store really just trickles down even to the customers. Customers can tell if people aren't very happy. And they will even think, if the employees aren't happy to be here, why should I be happy to be shopping here? So creating that positive work environment, retailers shouldn't be closed off from their employees. They should constantly walk the floor as much as possible, get out of their offices, have those frequent conversations, frank conversations in the aisleways with all their employees. And by creating a more positive, open work atmosphere, it will really help with employee morale and will also show your customers that everyone is happy to be here and you should be happy to be shopping here. I'd like to thank you for attending today's Employee Motivation webcast. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email is foley@nrha.org. Also, if you have any questions for the retailers we spoke with in terms of their employee motivation techniques, also please feel free to shoot me an email. Thank you very much.